What's going on, guys? TBF Gaming, welcome back to another episode of Madden 19 Franchise Mode. So check it out, guys. We decided to do something a little bit different once again. I didn't like the way the edits were coming out for the Madden 19 Franchise Mode. It's just really unnatural, and I just couldn't quite figure out how to do the voiceovers for it. So what I wanted to do was a little bit different, kind of an NFL-style edit throughout this. I just started using Adobe Premiere Pro, so I'm a little bit new at that. I'm not doing too great with that just yet. It's definitely a difficult thing to use, but I want to kind of use this to help me get better at it, and hopefully eventually I'll be really good with it, but for right now it's definitely a struggle. Plus, I'm not the greatest at speaking, public speaking, or getting on here and doing voiceover, so it kind of helps me with all those things, just getting a little bit of practice. Hope you guys enjoy. Make sure you guys leave me a like if you guys do enjoy it. Leave me a comment of how I can improve, and I will see you in the next episode. Just 3 years removed from being the Super Bowl champions, the Denver Broncos look to rebuild after a 5-11 season, which placed them last in the AFC West. The 2019 Broncos saw an offseason that changed out a significant amount of players like Aqib Talib, C.J. Anderson, quarterbacks Trevor Siemian, and Brock Osweiler. Broncos still host a preeminent defense led by Von Miller and skilled offensive players like Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders. The biggest change this season comes at quarterback, seeing Case Keenum come over from the Minnesota Vikings after leading them to the playoffs last season. Game 1 saw the defense hold the Seahawks' strong offense to just 3 points as they relentlessly chased down the quarterback Russell Wilson and swarmed to any pass that made it downfield. The Broncos received sacks from linebackers Brandon Marshall and Todd Davis, as well as the sack fumble from defensive end Derek Wolfe. And of course, they got their typical highlight from Von Miller, who was in the same season form that saw the Denver Broncos go to the Super Bowl just a few seasons prior. Just like last season, the offense is where the problems start. Right before Game 1, the Denver Broncos released Devin Booker, the projected starter going into this season, and brought in a few new rookies and then tried to lean heavily on Freeman, who had a few promising runs early, but then just a little bit later had a huge fumble which stalled out the Broncos' offense. The Broncos then turned to Case Keenum and a young rookie running back, Marshall, who they hoped would give them a little bit of a spark, but after a few big plays was injured and left for about 6 weeks. With the defense holding strong and the running game limping through the game, the Denver Broncos were forced to put a lot of weight on new starting quarterback Case Keenum's shoulders. Case Keenum previously led the Minnesota Vikings to a strong playoff run the season prior and looked strong during the preseason. With a few early hookups to Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, as well as a couple nice passes to the young rookie out of SMU, Case Keenum looked like he could handle the task. The Seahawks defense proved to be too much for Case Keenum as he struggled with inaccuracy, was sacked several times, and overall just couldn't handle the pressure brought by the Seahawks defense. This led to a late fourth quarter interception which really hurt the Broncos, and it looked like they wouldn't have a chance to win this game. But with the defense's stellar performance, the Broncos were still in the game in the fourth quarter, and after a huge fourth down conversion by Case Keenum and a late game hookup to Demaryius Thomas, it looked like the Broncos might at least make it into field goal position, which all went away on the next play when Case Keenum threw the interception which sealed the loss for the Denver Broncos. Prior to Game 2, Coach Brown was able to get 2 big free agent signings, bringing in Damien Williams, the running back out of Oklahoma who played with the Miami Dolphins the prior season, and troubled offensive lineman Reggie Cognito, which should help shore up the offensive line. Those additions paid off early as the Denver Broncos were able to use the play action to hit their tight end deep over the middle of the field, and then again on the left side, the play action was now a viable option for the Broncos. This also meant that they could open up the passing game to Emmanuel Sanders, but today's game was all about Demaryius Thomas. Demaryius Thomas put on an absolute show, getting double-digit catches with 170-plus yards, an absolute monster of a game. Of course, this came to an end the same way that the first game did. It was thrown away by a struggling quarterback. Case Keenum struggled to find the receivers most of the game outside of Demaryius Thomas and continued to force the ball to Demaryius Thomas, causing several interceptions, 3 in fact. One was a pick 6, another one right in enemy territory, and another one that shut down a drive that could have tied the game. continued to play well, getting to the quarterback plenty of times, but they just couldn't stop the big play. David Carr hooked up early with Jordy Nelson deep in the end zone to give them their first score, and then there was a couple other big plays throughout the game to include some crushing runs at the end of the game by beast mode Marshawn Lynch. This moved the Broncos to 0-2 on the season. Game 3 brought the Broncos to Baltimore as they faced the Ravens, who were also a struggling team with a struggling quarterback, so they went with Lamar Jackson, the young rookie who actually had a great game against the Broncos, and there were just some big plays that the Broncos defense couldn't seem to shut down. Overall, there were a lot of highlights in this game. It was overall just a big struggle for both teams, minus one or two big plays by Case Keenum, but it was still marred by the same mistakes that Case Keenum has made the entire time. He was picked off several times by the Ravens, and this was the last time that Case Keenum would actually suit up for the Broncos. Once again, Case Keenum had another chance to actually score late in the game. They had a couple crucial plays, and it looked like they might actually pull it out, only trailing by 6 with 4 minutes and 45 seconds left. There was a big hookup that got him just outside the red zone, but on the very next play, Case Keenum, looking over to the right side, was picked off on a huge interception, and this should prove too much to be for the Broncos to overcome. After the 0-3 start, the Denver Broncos shift Case Keenum onto the Kansas City Chiefs, which was their Week 4 opponent. Chase Keenum would actually become their starting quarterback despite the poor stats early in the season, completing under 50% of his passes with 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Chase Keenum did well early against the Denver Broncos, completing several passes on a nice drive and a touchdown hookup to Travis Kelce in the second quarter. Chad Kelly would get his chance with the Denver Broncos this year. He was actually expected to be on the practice squad or at least a third-string quarterback. But after cutting Paxton Lynch and trading away Chase Keenum, the last pick in this year's draft actually got his chance to start. He played well, getting an early hookup to Emmanuel Sanders, who did most of the work, but actually built a good rapport and had a nice rhythm going with the Denver Broncos receiving corps, to include Demaryius Thomas and the rookie out of SMU, Cortland Sutherland, who had a nice touchdown in the third quarter. More importantly, through the game, Chad Kelly did not throw any interception and protected the ball. Unfortunately, they had a hard time moving the ball late in the game, and the Kansas City Chiefs capitalized with 3 straight field goals in the fourth quarter, going from 13 to 16 to 19 to 22, giving them an 8-point lead with little time left in the game, and the Denver Broncos couldn't mount a comeback. So the Denver Broncos start off the 2019 season 0-4, definitely a struggle early on. They made a couple more free agent picks after this, and they move into the second half of the season with a really bright future with Chad Kelly as their starting quarterback. Hopefully they can get some things going moving forward. Having a lot of fun in the season so far. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next episode.